Welcome to this edition of Newsnight, and now tonight we discuss the depreciation or the weakening of the Uganda shilling against the US dollar, and just the US dollar and not the other currencies. With me, the old man of the clan and also the CEO of the independent magazine, Andrew Mwenda. Andrew, we discussed this at the beginning.
General of the UPDF and men of broken hearts.
We discussed this at the beginning of the year when the dollar, did touch 2,900, one of the record levels, but I'm told we've been to 2970 before. We saw this hit 3,000, and as we speak, it's about 3,100.
Yes, 3,100.
This is unprecedented.
If you have been holding your dollars, you have never reached this price.
Yes.
You must be smiling all the way to the bank. If you are an exporter, you should be smiling all the way to the bank. Garden. Yes, that's.
But this is unfortunate for all the importers, but also for anyone who deals in any business that involves foreign exchange.
Yes, but first of all, let me tell you that a depreciating Uganda shilling is a good thing for this economy. Why? Because countries earn money from exports. Countries spend money through imports. Uganda has a huge current account deficit. You get me? So, and given that right now we have a large influx of companies coming to invest, especially Chinese companies investing in manufacturing in Uganda, the best policy Uganda can have for attracting more investment in manufacturing is a depreciating shilling, because it makes imports expensive and exports cheaper. It becomes cheaper for people abroad to buy Ugandan goods and much more expensive for Ugandans to buy foreign goods. Have you been to our supermarkets? Go to Nakumatt or any supermarket in Uganda, ShopRite, Game. You will find mangoes and apples from South Africa. You will find honey from the Middle East. You find every single thing we produce here being sold in the supermarkets. I want the shilling to depreciate to about 5,000 to the dollar, so that it makes it very expensive for Ugandans to import all these things they import, which have so many local substitutes. And these local substitutes, if they become much cheaper relative to imports, you will have more increased demand for them, and therefore more investment in Ugandan processed goods. It's a good thing for the country.
Before we discuss, yes.
Look, are you aware that China and Japan are being accused by the United States of manipulating their currencies to keep them cheap relative to the dollar?
Yes.
And Ugandans are angry. I understand why Ugandans are angry, because we are an import-dependent economy.
True.
A lot of the things we consume are but the biggest import Uganda pays for is fuel, and given that the international price of fuel has been going down, so we cannot complain.
Well, I see that the fuel prices will not, of course, we won't see another drop in the next few days in fuel prices, because now we have the dollar going up, because it's easier for them to always increase the fuel price when the dollar goes up. But Andrew, let's discuss some of the fundamentals based on this. Why would we see this dip in the Ugandan shilling? Yes.
Two things.
Yes.
No, let me say four things are driving this. One, if you follow international financial markets, you realize that the dollar has been gaining against major world currencies except the British pound. But the euro has lost about 13% of its value since December last year to the dollar. But I can see only two currencies are going up, the dollar and the pound. The pound reached 4,500 shillings today. So that is one. So the American economy has become much stronger now. Its growth rate is projected at 3.6%. As the American economy recovers, the US dollar becomes stronger. That is one. The second thing, we are in March. Companies are finishing their auditing their books and are remitting dividends to their shareholders. We have a large section of
and this has to be done in dollars.
Of course. So you cannot if MTN is transferring money to its shareholders in South Africa. Have you looked at the figures of banks? Standard Chartered Bank, Stanbic Bank, they made the profits in excess of 150, 170 billion. So they have to get a percentage of that money and send it to their shareholders as a dividend.
Yes.
The third thing, you have the conflict in South Sudan, which has reduced Uganda's exports to that country. This was the largest destination of Ugandan exports.
True.
$290 million. It has now shrunk down to almost nothing. So you have a source of foreign exchange that has gone away. So our foreign exchange earnings have also gone down. And then finally, of course, the companies that are investing must be buying dollars in order also to be able to purchase equipment, to do many things as they begin. If they had any budgets they had planned, their corporate expenditure will take place in the first quarter. So those four things explain why the Uganda shilling is doing badly.
Well, the word on the street has related what's happening now to our instability in 2011. Bank of Uganda,
the government is spending money on elections.
Yes, that either spending or hoarding money right now
yes,
to be used later in the election.
Let me tell you,
which has reduced, yes.
You see, people in Uganda don't understand. The Uganda government does not spend dollars during the campaigns. It spends shillings. So the effect of government holding money would increase. If Uganda started holding shillings, it means it is removing shillings from the economy. So the price of the shilling would go up relative to that of the dollar. So it cannot be true that the government of Uganda is holding shillings. It cannot hold dollars. For what? You don't bribe peasants in my village with $10. You bribe them with 20,000 shillings, right? So that is one. The second thing, we are too far away from the election for election-related spending to become a problem. This is much. For Christ's sake, the primaries of the NRM will take place in July, August. The campaigns will begin in December. Yes,
but the thinking is on the street that you have investors who are a bit cagey about the election that is coming up and are now pulling out their money from the economy.
There is likely to be an element of that if you are an investor.
And they're pulling out their money in dollars anyway.
This is what I'm asking you. If you are an investor in Uganda, this is the time when you'd have supreme confidence in the stability of Uganda. Why? The opposition does not pose any threat to the NRM. In 2006, you would have pulled out your money. But right now, it appears Museveni is in such a strong and unassailable position, and the opposition is so grossly unorganized for it to pose any threat to regime stability and survival in Uganda.
Going by Muntu launch, they don't look very unorganized.
Well, the fact that Muntu gave a very good speech does not necessarily mean that FDC is very well organized and resourced to
you have to start from somewhere.
But at least, you know, this is what I'm saying. Yes. So it is possible that between now and October and December, Muntu may, by some miracle, organize such a powerful mass movement to dislodge NRM from power. That is possible. But highly improbable.
A company like ours, a private company like ours and yours that deal a lot with, do import or do some business with the foreign exchange and in dollars.
In fact, for us, we are more than you because for us, we import print.
Yes, we'll be hit a lot because all the managers or finance managers must have had an estimate of where the dollar would reach. 3,000 was beyond their imagination. They must have had a ceiling of, say, 2,800, 2,900, based on the bank projections. All banks never projected a 2,900. They never even projected a 3,000. What happened? I mean, who are those sitting in these banks that do these financials and never even see the forecast? These 3,000 will hit a lot of private companies that do invest.
Have you ever heard of something called a black swan?
I know, but I'm wondering, what does this say about our banks, our institutions that could not have seen that this was going to happen?
So I will assume that your audience, to whom we are speaking, don't know the black swan. The black swan is the impact of the impact of a big and unexpected event.
Yes.
In this sense,
what was unexpected about this?
If you look at most analysts, they had predicted the price of fuel to remain at above 120. Yes. It's now at 62. I am predicting next year, end of next year, it will be $200. Do you get it? But it could even be 40 end of next year. The bottom line is that every investor is essentially a speculator. You're betting against the future. And the future is so indeterminate because there's so many intermediate factors that come. One day you should ask me, I will bring you reports that highly respected international firms were rating on the assessment of Egypt and Tunisia in December and January 2010, 2011. They were saying the regime will continue stable, the opposition are disorganized and all this. And it just, after they had issued the report, these international rating firms, on Tunisia, it lasts 3-4 weeks later, the government collapsed. And 2 months later, the government of Egypt collapsed. In other words, a black swan is something like that. And you can never predict things like that. So I sympathize. All the mathematical models you can put in this world can never, with a certain degree of certainty, give you the price of oil and the price of the dollar in the next 2 years. They can't.
All right.
There are so many mathematical models and formulas, econometric formulas that have been developed to predict these things and have been consistently proven to be wrong.
All right, Andrew, we must end it here. Well,
but the last one is that when you want to predict things like this, you don't need to talk to these econometricians. You talk to a seer like me.
Well said. And on that note, we wrap up Newsnight.